everybody, and welcome back to Always Right. I'm Chris Thomas, and here's Laryssa again. Neo is trending in the news, and he is wading into the culture war. Laryssa, I know you have some of the backstory here, so feel free to fill us in.
Yes. Okay, so basically, Neo backtracked his original apology that he put out regarding the LGBT community and gender affirming care on children. So basically, on a Gloria, what was her last name? I want to see the actual name of the podcast. The Gloria Velez podcast, he apparently made like some very controversial topics or comments about, transgender children, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to read to you guys what he said. It's a little long, so please bear with me.
And for the record, I don't think they're very controversial. I think they're common sense things that you guys can be the judge, though.
I agree. But, in this day and age, boys and girls are very controversial by themselves and their definitions. So, now we have to, I guess, articulate everything just a little bit more.
That is true.
But, all right. So, if your little boy comes to you and says, "Daddy, I want to be a girl," you just let him rock with that, Neo said on the podcast. If you let this 5-year-old boy decide to eat candy all day, he's going to do that. When did it become a good idea to let a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, or 12-year-old make a life-changing decision for themselves? He can't drive a car yet, but he can decide his sex. And then later in the conversation, he told Velez that somebody once advised him to ask your son, "What is a girl?" if your little boy comes to you and says, "Daddy, I want to be one." And then he also added he may want to play with dolls. Neo said, "Fine, play with dolls, but you're a boy playing with dolls."
Yes.
So, in conclusion, you definitely understand which side of the team Neo is on.
He's on the correct
also
side.
Yes, he is on the common sense, think logically, and just common sense all around. I mean, there's no better word for it, right? I mean, it's common sense and basic human science, and I don't even know what else compared to just batshit crazy. But yeah, so he initially apologized for, the statements and how they can be hurtful, but then he backtracked his apology and re-apologized basically by saying, "I'm sorry if you were offended, but basically I really don't care." And he also went on to say that he will try to educate himself more on this topic, but he also highly doubts that there is any book or any person that can basically persuade his already made up mind.
And you know what? That's respectful. He's being honest. This is my opinion.
Exactly.
You don't have to
Which
like my opinion.
More of these celebrities need to do, because there is not enough of these celebrities speaking up. There are more celebrities speaking up about how their 7-year-olds are non-binary compared to waking up, smelling the coffee, and realizing that that's actually a freaking problem.
Did you see Jamie Lee Curtis? Her daughter's non-binary.
Which part? Because I know a lot of controversies with that woman. I know about the one with the picture hanging up in her office.
Well, so the one I'm talking about is she has a daughter that's non-binary, and when she won her last Oscar or Golden Globe, I have to remember which one it was. She gave the award statue a non-binary name as an homage to her non-binary daughter. Like, but why? Like, what the? Anyway. We're talking about Neo.
Yeah, why?
So the Neo
yeah,
thing,
I definitely, 100% stand with Neo. I support him not only speaking up, but for also saying what a lot of celebrities and elites are way too scared to say. He actually has a brain, and it was actually quite funny. I don't know if anybody picked this up in the actual not in the actual apology video, but like the backtrack apology video. He was wearing a lone wolf hat, and I just think it's really funny because with how we are right now and how, like, from day one, each of us speaking up kind of did feel like a lone wolf because we didn't really have our little community formed on TikTok yet. I mean, I sure did,
Yep.
because when I was getting basically like jumped in the comments by so many liberals and everything, like nobody had my back the way that y'all do now. But I just thought it was really funny how he was wearing that hat, and considering that he's one of the few celebrities that are speaking up, I thought it was very just interesting. A little, just as a little side note.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I think the way the press is treating him has been horrible. I when I was searching this topic on here, I just want to show on the screen here a couple of the headlines.
Oh,
USA Today.
these should be good.
Yeah, and it's nothing that surprising. It's Neo stands by transphobic comments. I will never be okay with that. Neo apologizes for transphobic comments, then doubles down. My opinion is mine. And this one, Neo rescinds his apology for anti-trans comments. I will not be bullied. So they're making him sound like this combative, hateful guy. And
Transphobic, like asshole who hates all trans people.
well,
When all he said was basically like, let kids be kids. Like, I love how they just correlate anything with children to transphobia. Anything that does not align with their beliefs, what they want. And guess what? Newsflash, you do not always get everything you want in life. That is the reality of
that's true.
the world that we live in.
That's
So
true.
you are not going to get every single person to agree with you. The same way that those people who are religious, you are not going to force everybody to be religious, right? And the religious people understand that. So why can the transgender community, and not even the trans people, but the activists, the people like the straight white women, or the cuckoo cuckoo XYZ community who are backing this shit?
Well, there's a very big difference. I love how you brought up the religion, because there's a very different tactic in how religious people spread their message. Because religious people do believe, in the Christian Bible, it is true that you have to bring others to God and bring others to Jesus, and that's something that religious people do, but they do it differently. Religious people open up religious schools that aren't taking taxpayer dollars, right? They're private schools, and parents can choose to send their kids to those schools. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, they stand on street corners with a Bible and preach. And that's freedom of assembly, and that's freedom of speech. They exercise their freedom of speech. What the alphabet community tries to do is they try to interject their ideology into publicly funded institutions like public schools and corporate boardrooms and other types of institutions that serve the general public. That's the difference.
Yep.
And that's why it's wrong, because because anything, in my opinion, anything that's taxpayer funded should be ideologically neutral.
I
I'm
agree.
conservative personally, but I don't think we should have conservative ideology in these things either. It should be an ideologically neutral space if taxpayer dollars are going towards it. And I don't even care if it's an area where 75% of the taxpayers are liberals. If 25% of the tax revenue is coming from a different point of view, we should not have points of view that are subjective. And that's my opinion, and I'm right.
Always.
But that's, I think that's the problem, is it's being interjected into all this mainstream stuff that we don't have any control over. But, just for the hell of it, because Google is easy, I looked up, what's the definition of transphobia? It says a dislike of or strong prejudice against transgender people. So I don't see anything transphobic about Neo. He's saying he's essentially saying, number one, leave the kids alone. And number two, he's making the point that he doesn't think that just because a boy plays with dolls, that makes them a girl. The principle of that, he doesn't agree with the principle of that. That doesn't mean he has a prejudice towards people who are trans. That would suggest that he's mistreating people, or if he sees a trans person, he's going to be mean to them. That would be transphobic. If he walks down a street, or a trans fan comes to one of his concerts and the person says, I'm trans, and he says, okay, you're trans, you're not welcome in my show. Or you're trans, okay, get out of my arena. That would be transphobic, because he's mistreating an individual on the basis of them being trans. Nothing here suggests he would do any of that. So I just think it's wrong, it's slanderous, and yeah, I mean, I support him. He has his opinion. They're showing these quotes. They're supposed to be like scary and ominous, right? I will not be bullied. Hell yeah, good for you, right?
Absolutely. I
Because
mean, that's what the other side does best is bully, right? So,
exactly. And then here we go. My opinion is mine. They're putting that here. You can tell they're putting it in the headline to make it sound really ominous and really aggressive. And it's like, no, but hell yeah. His opinion is his. My opinion is mine. Your opinion is yours. Duh.
exactly, we're all allowed to have a difference of opinion. It does not make it hate speech. It does not make it, hateful or any sort of phobic or, you know, anything like that.
Absolutely. And I know you and I have both on TikTok been called transphobic way more times than we can count. But, where's the evidence that either of us would actually mistreat a trans person? It's just none of the things we've posted about, even on our social medias, have indicated that.
Nope. Nope.
And, these people, when I say these people, I don't mean trans people, I mean the activists. They get crazier and crazier. And I know, Laryssa, that you came across a new terminology. I'm not sure how new it is, but it was the first that I think you and I had heard of it. What are they now calling um, the phenomenon? That apparently men can have babies now, and you can tell us a little bit about what they're calling that.
Okay, so apparently, this term did not just come about until it looks like February of 2021 was the
Okay,
first time.
all right. So
February
we're a
5th.
couple years late, but that's okay.
Yes. But I mean, hey, look at the whole cisgender shit. I mean, that didn't get added to the dictionary until 2015, and it kind of just
Exactly.
became all of a sudden now. So we're actually not that far late.
I
But
think
anyway,
they
so
sneakily add it somewhere, and then but they don't talk about it, and then all of a sudden when it gets talked about a lot, then they can say, "Oh, this isn't new. It's always been like this."
yep,
Anyway, go
yep.
ahead.
So, and mind you, this is straight from Urban Dictionary. And I know a lot of people don't really use Urban Dictionary, but regardless, it's still a
Well,
dictionary.
Urban
So,
Dictionary is a good measure of the culture. It's not a real dictionary, but it is a measure of where society is at. I give it that.
true, true, true. You're right. So, y'all want to know what this term is?
Yes, go
It
for it.
is called a seahorse dad. Yes,
And
you
you know
heard
what?
that right. Seahorse, like the
Seahorse
sea
dad.
animal seahorse.
The first thing that comes to my mind is these are the same. You know how the left always uses words like dehumanize? You're dehumanizing me. They're quite literally dehumanizing trans people by comparing them to
A
deep
seahorse,
sea creatures. Yeah, like what's more dehumanizing than saying you are an animal? Literally.
right? Like, y'all are doing it to yourselves. But that's not even the best part. So let me read to y'all exactly the definition.
Okay, keep going.
A seahorse dad is a gestational parent who is transgender, most typically male or masculine identifying individuals, but they can also be non binary or otherwise not female identifying. The term is derived from the seahorse animal, of which the male carries and births their young.
This even makes no
Can
sense
I
though,
just,
because they're saying it doesn't have to be trans men, but they're still using the gendered term seahorse dad.
right.
They're using gender in that term, but it doesn't. I don't know. I can't keep up with these people.
Well, can I just say that, you know, for this being on Urban Dictionary and they're literally saying the term is derived from the seahorse animal, they do not know the anatomy of the seahorse very well, though, or the reproductive system or anything like that, because if they did, then they would know that it is actually the female seahorse that does fertilize, the eggs and everything. But once it is fertilized, then she passes it on to the male seahorse for him to give birth. But the fertilization process still happens with the female, the same way us women do. So I don't even know, like, what it, to me, it doesn't even make sense. Like, I could see what they're trying to do, but like, you didn't quite make that mark, unfortunately. I can't even say unfortunately. Fortunately, you didn't. It's kind of unfortunate that we are here. But yeah, so that's what I have for you guys, the Seahorse Dad. I don't know, maybe in the future we're going to be called monkey moms and dolphin dads. I mean, who knows? It's anything's possible, right?
Well, here's the thing. The leftist tactic is that because not everybody fits into a perfect category, it means we should abolish category. But they don't really want to abolish categories. They want to invent new ones and have it be on a person-to-person basis. That's what all this stuff with neo pronouns are. You know that
Right. They want to get rid of the whole gender ideology completely because their argument is okay, well there's women who are not very feminine and then there's men who aren't very masculine, so we need to take away the expectations of what a woman and a man is. But my thing is that in this society, I feel like to a certain extent there really isn't those expectations anymore because especially since I would say like the early 2000s, maybe like the mid 2000s, like 2010, especially with like the whole gay marriage bill and everything, people have been a lot more accepting of women being tomboys, men getting their nails done, and it has really gotten progressively more accepted even over the past few years. So why do we need to get rid of it? Like,
exactly. Well,
for
it's
what?
the
What
thing
is
is they
wrong with wanting a masculine man or a feminine woman? There's nothing wrong with that.
The thing is, though, they don't want. They'll say they want a genderless society. They don't, though, because what they want a society where everybody has their own pronouns and there's 5,000 genders. So they're trying to get rid of the two genders that are most widely used and identified as. It's still true that most people on the planet, even among young people, are a male or a female and will identify as such. But because there's a couple people who don't fit in that binary, their solution is that everybody should get their own neopronouns and we should. It's not that they don't want gender. They want to replace it with whatever labels that they think of arbitrarily and then force everybody else
Right.
to adhere to those because nobody can define what the neopronouns like z zers or airs. You've heard of all those, right?
It, it,
Nobody,
it, it makes absolutely no sense to me.
because
Absolutely none. I don't even
no,
want to try to understand it. It's just one of those things
well,
where
I don't
fuck off,
I don't
please.
I
Get it
don't
out of
think
here.
Well, I don't think you're meant to understand it because when people have been asked, what do those mean? They'll say, oh, these are just pronouns for people that don't want to go by they, them. They want to go by something that feels best for them. So they pick another thing. So it really has no definition. And I think they just want all these categories with no definitions. And it's so they can control the language. It really is because if you can control the language of a society, you control the culture. And that's what it's about, I think.
If I look dumbfounded, it's because I actually am like, when did we get here?
Exactly. When did we get here? That's a good question.
That should be on another podcast episode. Just when did we get here?
When did we get
How did we get here? Who, what, where, when, why?
Totally. So yeah, guys, that's our show for today. We're looking forward, and if anybody has an answer to that, please leave it in the comments. But
Yeah.
we hope to see you next time. It's been a great ride with you guys. Thanks.